Hi, my name is Dr. Shaun Yates, and this is a talk that I gave on the 2nd of September 2025 as part of SSSP's school day. This is a recording for those who are unable to attend that day. This is my talk from that school day. Okay, so it's titled SSSP AI Guidance, the Dual Model Approach, and this guidance is our official guidance for our school that says how we should be using AI in our teaching and learning practice, or how we should not be using it. So we began in January 2025. Brian Tutt messages me on Teams and says, will you write this guidance document? I say yes. Following that, I sent emails out to every educator in our school. And in this email, I said, what is your experiences with AI, the good, the bad, and the ugly? Let me know. I want to know everything. I'm writing a guidance document. I want to have your thoughts, your comments, your insights regarding how AI is being a problem in your practice, teaching and learning practice, how it's a benefit. Tell me everything. I want to know everything that you know about AI and warts and all. Tell me everything. So I sent that email to all the educators in our school. I got about 40 responses. Some were multiple responses from one person. A lot of the responses were very lengthy. So thank you for doing that. I also created a AI working group that is all the beautiful people in that green box. They were very useful, very helpful. They were all a critical friend to me. They were shaping my thoughts and opinions on this stuff. And we talked about the evidence that exists currently about AI and teaching and learning practice. So their input was really, really, really helpful. Helped with my critical reflection on creating this document. So I am incredibly grateful, and I appreciate the time that they volunteered for this project. As you can see on the slides, I did try to reach out to our students. So I linked in with the student union, and I sent out emails, and I said to students, listen, our staff, your teachers, your educators, they are interested in improving how they use AI, how they approach the issue of AI, and they want your input, and we would really value your input. Now, sadly, no student responded. I really did try to get students involved, but we just didn't have any uptake on it. So there it is. That was the process for making this guidance document. It's grounded in evidence. It's benefited from your insight, educators' insight from SSSP, and we've benefited from a fantastic working group as well. That's how this document has been created. So what does the document argue for? There's three big chapters in it, right? Three big chapters. The first one is how to use AI as an assistant for developing teaching and learning materials. It's pretty self-explanatory. The middle one here, point 2, how to update module assessments. This is probably the most relevant one that everyone's thinking about. Like, what do we do about AI with essays and plagiarism? And what are the rules now? Like, what should we do about this sort of stuff? That's chapter 2, and then there's another big chapter in the document that says how to use AI for administrative tasks. So dealing with bureaucratic managerial stuff, getting through that more efficiently. So let's talk about these chapters now. I'm going to focus mostly on chapter 2 because I think this is the one that most people are interested in. And of course, this is a document, so you can do a deep dive and read that document as well, which I obviously encourage you to do. Okay, so the overarching argument of this guidance, I'm going to read this from the slides, right? Because this is text from the document. And I've thought about this, I've meditated on this, and this is the best way I can express this. So I'm just going to read it word for word. The main argument of this document is that while SSSP educators must update their practice, this should be done to preserve the effectiveness of otherwise traditional critical pedagogical teaching methods. It's a long sentence. So what I'm saying here is that this AI stuff, all the AI tools, ChatGPT, Gemini, Manus, all of them, it is in fact, yes, disrupting the higher education sector, the university sector. So what students are doing, they're using AI to write essays for them. They're using AI to write dissertation projects for them. They're circumventing the critical thinking process, and they're eroding the point of higher education. So we must respond. We can't just pretend that students aren't using these tools. We must do something. So that's the first point. We must react. The second part of the quote. In the extreme, graduates with highly developed critical thinking skills who have low levels of technological proficiency have a greater potential to positively shape society than those with the inverse. So if you imagine we have two students, one who is great with critical thinking skills, but basically can't use a computer, like low technological proficiency, low AI proficiency. That's one type of student. And then we have the other type of student that is really great at knowing everything about AI. They can code with AI. They've got all this great AI skills, but they just can't think critically. They've got poor critical thinking skills. These two types of students, polar opposite students. This student, the guidance says, this student, the one who's great at critical thinking, is infinitely more valuable to society than this one, right? That's the position of the document. And that the primary reason for this is the individual who can think critically can spot the errors that the other student makes, right, in the social sciences. So a student who can think critically but can't use AI, they may come across an AI-generated essay, an AI-generated study, and because they're so great at critical thinking, they can spot errors in it. They can spot logical fallacies, they can spot fabricated references or why references don't make sense. They are just better at being social scientists or working in the social professions, right? So that's the principal position of the document. I'll finish off the quote here. The guidance offered in this document is underpinned by this principal position. SSSP's primary mission must be to produce graduates with critical thinking skills, not just technological proficiency. Okay, so we're emphasizing that critical thinking skills are key. They are the central heart of the social sciences and social professions. So, the guidance document that I'll be sending out to all of us on the 15th of September, that's the plan. It talks about two models of teaching. There's two broad ways to teach in this new AI world. There's a critical learning model, and this model says that it's basically Stone Age style teaching. The critical model says there's a way of teaching that gets rid of AI and technology pretty much altogether, and we design out the possibility that students are going to use AI, and we focus on the highly social, pastoral teaching practice of developing students' independent critical thinking skills, their ability to reflect, their ability to engage in non-digital communication, and their ability to problem solve, right? That's one type of teaching practice, teaching and learning practice. And you can see an example of that on screen where people are just talking to each other, maybe they're reflecting over, I don't know, some key sociological text, let's say Karl Marx. They're reflecting over Karl Marx and like, what does it mean to use critical theory or whatever it is. And then the second type of learning model is the enhanced learning model. So this method of teaching and learning practice says they fully expect and accept that students will use AI. And the mission here, according to this model, is to build students' subject-relevant technological proficiency, right? Subject-relevant technological proficiency. So when they use this model, the educator is thinking, right, how can I leverage AI and all these different tools to make my students become more productive social scientists? How can they do more with less, that sort of thing? And these are two types of teaching practice. One that's basically AI inclusive, that's the enhanced learning model, and one is AI exclusive, you're not allowed to use it, we're designing our AI. That's a critical learning model. So, what is the position of this guidance document? How do we balance these two approaches to teaching and learning? The analogy that I use is this. When we set off on our teaching and learning journey at the start of the academic year, and we start sailing across that a proverbial sea, we begin our journey. Our main sail, our key core method of teaching and learning must be the critical learning model. We must focus in on developing students' independent critical thinking skills, their ability to reflect, the non-digital communication and problem solving skills, which does not involve AI, right? So that's our main sail, the core approach, right? And then as an option, in addition to, if we want to use it, it's up to us as educators whether we use it. We can add in, as an extension, the enhanced learning model. We can create pockets of teaching and learning practice that does incorporate AI. But the main thrust, the main drive of teaching and learning practice within SSSP should be the critical learning model. So we're designing our AI all the time. So the next question must be, well, what does that look like? How do we do that? Like, how do we actually make these things real? Don't worry, I've got guidance for that too. In the appendix 1 of the guidance document, there is direct instructions for how to update our assessments so they primarily fit within the critical learning model. And then it's up to you if you say, well, actually, I want to have space where this particular assessment is enhanced learning. There's alternatives there too. There are options for how to update our currently existing assessments to make them follow the enhanced learning model. So you can see this on screen. You've got a column there that says current unmodified assessment, and it goes under essay or other at-home written report or coursework. And as you move to the adjacent columns, you can update using the critical learning model. And if you choose to, there's the other option, the enhanced learning model. There's different ways you can update the traditional essay format. So what's happening here is when we update our practice, we're giving students very clear instructions. We're either saying you're absolutely not allowed to use AI, and we're going to make it really difficult for you to actually use AI. We're designing out the possibility that you would ever cheat, use AI to complete this assessment. That's a critical learning model. But if you're an educator that says, well, actually, I do in fact want to have that enhanced learning component on my module in addition to all the critical learning stuff, then we give guidance for that too. So just to use the example that's on the screen, if you do in fact wish to set an essay, an at-home essay where the student has to go back and do their own reading and write this essay, we can't just give them the instructions, hey, don't use AI, that's cheating. Instead, according to the enhanced learning model, we expect students to use AI. We accept students are going to use AI, and then we then give them guidance, and then we mark them accordingly, right? With the anticipation that they're definitely going to use AI. And there's, we have instructions for how we'd actually mark the student in this guidance document too. So there it is. It's about giving clear instructions to students so they know what's being asked of them. And there's clear instructions about what's expected and what's not expected, specifically in terms of AI use. So if we set an assessment where the student is to go out and use AI as an assistant when completing the assessment, we have this in the guidance document, the AI transparency statement cover sheet. So the student has to fill this in and say, yes, I did in fact use AI, and these are the ways I used it. And this brings us in line with the sector. So we're adding a layer of transparency to assessments where students are being forthcoming with the AI use. They're not sort of using it clandestinely and thinking, oh yes, perhaps my tutor will think that I actually wrote all of this when in fact I didn't. I used ChatGPT to write it. There's none of that. It's very transparent now. We're saying we're expecting you to use AI. You're not going to trick us. But when you do, please do fill in this form. Yeah, there it is. So the next question probably is, well, okay, what are the rules for how students should use AI if they're ever going to use AI for an assessment? Don't worry, we've got some rules here. As you can see on screen, there's another item in the appendix, appropriate AI tool use for enhanced learning assessments. And we educators can copy and paste this stuff into our module handbooks, into WebLearn, into our lecture materials when we're trying to talk about the assessment with students, and it details what is an appropriate use of AI and what is not an appropriate use of AI, right? So those with a keen eye on the previous slide would have seen the asterisk that said, is AI use academic misconduct or not? This is the big question. It's like, well, hang on. Actually, if a student actually does use AI, then should we report them to the case office? Is that what we're going to do now? Like, there might still be some confusion here. So here's the answer to that question. Plagiarism and falsification of references, making up references, that is still and has obviously always been academic misconduct. So if that happens, yes, we do in fact send that piece of work to the casework team. Second bullet point. Otherwise, though, if you've set an enhanced learning assessment, just using AI isn't grounds for academic misconduct. You would just give them a very low grade if there's poor expression of ideas, if the ideas that they do include are not in great depth, if the structure and flow of the assessment is poor, then you give them a low grade. And all these things are what an AI produces when it's been used inappropriately, right? In a poor way. So if you set an enhanced learning assessment, it's not, we're accepting that students will use AI. And if AI is used poorly, we just give them a poor grade, right? That's it. These be the rules. The last bullet point here is if you set a critical learning assessment that designs out AI, right? So imagine you've had the traditional take-home essay, and you said, I'm going to update this, so it's going to be a essay that's actually in an exam hall under time conditions, right? So you converted it into a critical learning assessment. You've designed out the possibility a student's going to use AI here. But somehow, right, somehow in this world, the student has actually used AI to complete the assessment. So I don't know, maybe they went to the bathroom and they had a smartwatch and they were somehow using, like some bizarre way they've managed to use AI. In this circumstance, yes, that is academic misconduct, because you've explicitly told the student that AI is not allowed, and you've taken steps to design out the possibility the student will use AI. Yeah. So the point of this stuff, to say that we have to make it clear whether a student can use AI or not, it's to set expectations of the student in their mind, to make it very clear what's going on. Hopefully that's coming across. Okay, so what's next? As I said at the beginning, full guidance is going to come out on the 15th of September. There's going to also, sorry, let's take a step back. When the guidance comes out on the 15th of September, I will send every educator in SSSP an email. There's going to be an action list attached, and it's going to say things like, please update your module handbook by including these tables, these bullet points. Please update WebLearn with these things. It's going to be an action point list there for us to work through to be prepared for the upcoming academic year. And yeah, basically the mission is we're gonna try to update our practice as much as possible this academic term, and then come January we should all be well on our way to becoming fully guidance compliant, and we're sort of in step with the industry. Then we're in step with the sector. We're no longer lagging behind other institutions. We are one of the guys running forward and innovating and doing our best to manage this disruptive AI technology. Okay, so there it is. There's the guidance document. Please do expect it on the 15th of September. Yeah, it was great speaking to everyone yesterday, and I look forward to any further comments you guys have. I'm always receptive to feedback and further improving this guidance. So yeah, there it is. Okay, thank you so much. Goodbye and good luck. Bye-bye.